33-year-old Trump supporter Douglas Mackey has discovered that, well, trying to spread just a meme will land you in prison for up to 10 years. Many saying that this is one of the latest things that show just how bad this country is, this banana republic, that they're going after anyone out there that even does something like this. Now, he was convicted of election interference and faces up to 10 years in prison, all because of a meme that he tweeted out during the 2016 election.
Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned on a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime.
And now this massive election interference at a scale never seen before in our country, beginning with the radical left, George Soros-backed prosecutor Alvin Bragg of New York, who campaigned on the fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is a guy campaigning. He wanted to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning. As it turns out, virtually everybody that has looked at this case, including rhinos and even hardcore Democrats, say there is no crime and that it should never have been brought. Never have been brought. Everybody.
This is not what so many people want to make it look like. Oh, it's Michael Cohen's vengeance against Donald Trump. That's not what this is about. This is solely about accountability. I should not be held accountable for Donald Trump's dirty deeds.
We have the banking crisis. They say it's fine. It's just beginning. Yesterday, we had the Saudis and Brazil and China enter a deal to where the petrodollar is over. Brazil and China are going to trade in their own currency. That's the beginning of the end of our currency. That means a dollar collapse. That means we become Venezuela. We will have war with China. We will have war with Russia and Iran.
Describing their talks, Putin said, "We are in favor of using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America." So, the world's second largest economy and its largest energy exporter are together actively trying to dent the dollar's dominance as the anchor of the international financial system.
The petrodollar system was established in the early 1970s when the United States made a deal with Saudi Arabia to price oil in U.S. dollars. This agreement made it necessary for other countries to hold large amounts of U.S. dollars in order to purchase oil from OPEC countries, which then, of course, helped support the demand for the dollar. And it made the world's dominant currency. It let America browbeat the rest of the world. It let America go into massive debt because there would always be another country around to buy up the U.S. debt.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. And today I have Terrence from the Union of the Unknowns joining me. Hey Terry, how you doing today?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. Having some connection issues, and that's why we migrated over to Zoom. But it's nice to have backups for backups. Unfortunately, we don't get to do this live because I was expecting some friends of ours to come and heckle.
Right.
But they'll get their chance at some point. Anyway, in the news, I think probably one of the most important things happened. You're you're in a different country, so you don't. This doesn't affect you in the same way, but it will have an effect around the world. But the petrodollar is going to go away, and that United States hegemony over money is really it's going to change the world, and it's going to make things a lot worse in the United States.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally agree. No, I do know about the petrodollar. I found there's something interesting about it recently, which I didn't know. If you go to Wikipedia and you search for petrodollar, it hasn't got a page for it. You've got a page for something like petrodollar recycling, but it doesn't explain what the petrodollar is. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, as you say, it's very important. You know, I don't know if we need to explain to our listeners what the basis of it was. It's basically an agreement between Saudi Arabia and America, wasn't it? When the US came off the gold standard, they needed another excuse for the dollar to be the reserve currency. So they made this agreement with Saudi Arabia that Saudi were going to sell their oil in dollars in return for kind of like military protection from the US armed forces. And that's the main reason why the dollar's been the reserve currency. This was in the 70s. So ever since then, the dollar's been the world reserve currency. And as you say, that's changing now because Saudi Arabia are saying they're going to set up other currencies. A lot of other countries are doing the same. And then we've got these BRICS nations seemingly coming together to make their own currency, which rumor has it might be gold-backed or some sort of commodity-backed currency. So it's more like a real currency, whereas all the other currencies in the West are sort of like pretend currencies, really like play money, because you print as much as you want.
Well, I think that the powers that shouldn't be think that petrol is going away.
That seems to be their plan, yeah. I don't actually think it's a very viable plan because one of the things the EU wanted to do was the European Union, they wanted to make all cars electric by I think it was 2035. Now, like the US, the European electrical grid haven't got the capacity for every car to be electrical. So probably part of their plan was they wanted to restrict cars to the elite and stop us plebs driving around in all the places they want to have to themselves. But they have actually backed off from that now. They said, we're not going to do that anymore. They're going to allow a certain form of combustion engine, but not, I think they said they were going to make it run off synthetic fuel rather than petroleum-based fuel. I don't know how that's going to work. It sounds like a crazy idea. But anyway, so they're kind of backing away from it a bit because they realize it's totally unfeasible.
Yeah, this is not going to work. It's going to blow up in their face. The battery-powered cars, battery-powered vehicles is just not the thing that's going to push us forward. That LNG might, but it's going to take a lot to convert everything to that. And plus, you're still dealing with the same things. These people, I don't think that they planned correctly, or that, like you said, they don't care about us being able to drive. They only care about them being able to get to the places they want. That's why they're putting these 15-minute concentration camps up in various places. Yeah. And that's the model. They want this to happen everywhere. They want every community to be 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes by car becomes 15 minutes by bike, becomes 15 minutes by walking. So the walls really close in on people whenever this happens.
Yeah, I totally think they don't really want us traveling around at all. Seemingly they're trying to do the same thing with flights as well. And part of this Great Reset plan, I can't remember if it was actually a WEF document, but they were talking about, for example, in Britain, they would only have 2 airports, one in Scotland and one in London. And we've got loads more, obviously, in all the major cities, but they would close all those down in the name of saving carbon, amongst other things. So the whole thing about the as you probably know, the whole thing about the carbon thing is part of that, restricting us in what we can do. But they'll still be flying around in their private jets, of course. So
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing to say that this one element is the cause of all of the problems, and it happens to be one of the most important elements that we deal with, and so many people are bought into the scam. I wish that people would be to reprogram people. Carbon is not a problem. There is nothing wrong with carbon, and there's nothing that they could feasibly do to get rid of it. You don't want to get rid of it, by the way.
yeah, it's really bad science. I'm a sort of sciencey person myself, trained as a mathematician, and it was one of the early things I looked into where I thought, I wonder if this is really what they say it is, because you remember there were all those email leaks from the UK university showing that they were doing a lot of kind of mafia style tactics on scientists that didn't agree with them. And then I looked into the science a bit more, and it really is for shit. It's really bad quality. So, it's science for the toilet, really. And, the one thing you could say about it, it hasn't really got very good predictive value because, they're predicting global temperatures going up and up and up. And that just hasn't happened. So which is why, of course, they call it climate change now. So we've got all bases covered.
So with that, they're going to very likely start rolling out. I mean, they've already got the Fed coin coming out, and yeah. I don't think they really even have to do anything. That's been my theory for a little while, is that it's not like, oh, we must resist the Fed coin and not use government crypto, that kind of thing. No, you're not going to get a choice. It's going to, your U.S. dollars, well, you probably don't have very many U.S. dollars being where you are, but the U.S. dollar will turn overnight into this Fed coin, and whatever's in your bank account, whatever's in your bank account, your cash will be interchangeable with it. It might as well be the same thing until they eventually get rid of cash.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we use euros here, of course, and a lot of people say that the euro will probably collapse first because it's even more of a fake currency than the dollar is. Because they're trying to impose the same currency on all these different countries with different laws and different economies. It was flawed from the start, really. So they might be replacing that with the digi euro first. But do you think do you think that's going to work? Because I'm skeptical that they'll get that to work either. Because I think COVID was all about bringing that in, and I don't think it's quite worked out the way they wanted.
I don't think it's worked out the way they wanted it to, but as James Evan Pilato always says, that hey, everybody's getting a cold. It's time to change the money. Is basically what happened over the last couple of years. And yeah, so that's the scam. They want us to get onto this new money, and basically what it is that it's a design system to rob us, the regular people, while Absolutely. the fancy people probably don't have any sort of problem with it. It's not that you will own nothing and you will be happy. It's, we'll take everything from you and you better not say anything about it.
Yeah, because they'll have total, the digital currency, they'll have total control over what you spend the money on and how much money you get. So they can turn it off whenever they want. I don't think normies quite, appreciate that, because they'll probably just be sold on the convenience of it. Hey, look, you don't have to take money around with you anymore. It'd be great. Oh, yeah, I'll sign up for that.
Well, most of us are already doing that anyway. I mean, sometimes my job puts me in places where I don't want a wallet full of cash. And, I do what I consider one of the most normal jobs there is driving a truck. And, and a lot of these industrial parks are in industrial areas, and there's sometimes crime related to those areas, and just walking from where the truck can be parked to a store in the area can get you in trouble. So, like there is that, and then there's also the crime on the rise. I mean, there there's so much crime happening everywhere, and it's only going to get worse as the money continues to be tampered with.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah. So, do you have to drive to some of these dangerous cities like Chicago and?
Yeah, even my hometown of Houston, where they put me is places that I never used to go to whenever I was living there as a regular person. I would not go around there, and then they put you right there to make your delivery. So
Yeah.
it's always the industrial areas can be pretty sketchy, and the thing is, it's like you can shut off your card. So if somebody steals your cards, then you can shut them off within a reasonable amount of time, and they won't be able to take too much from you unless they really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if they take your cash, they got it and it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it's so convenient, and but also one of the reasons we should be using cash as much as possible is it keeps cash around. If we don't use it, it's going to go away.
Yeah, the currency thing's very tricky, isn't it? Because you want the convenience of something. You don't want to carry loads of gold bars around with you to pay things, or silver coins or whatever. So the convenience thing is definitely a big selling point. I think that will be a big way they will try and they will manage to get CBDCs adopted widely, because just for the convenience thing, really, and the security, like you say. We try to use cash because we listen to Catherine Austin Fitz from time to time, and she's very keen on. She has a thing called Cash Friday, where you're supposed to use cash all day Friday at least. So, and also we've ended up with quite a lot of money in the bank from I was explaining to you before we started that our house has been damaged by the volcano, so we've had a big insurance claim, and we've got money from that in the bank, and we don't really think it's safe there with the coming financial crisis. Where they might, if we're going to have another bail-in, they could give us all a haircut and steal our money. So we're trying to empty the accounts into cash as much as possible.
Yeah, I listen to Catherine Austin Fitz on occasion as well, and I think she's great, and I love the idea of Cash Fridays. By the way, happy Cash Friday.
Oh yeah, happy Cash
I
Friday.
think that it's I think it's a good cause. And yeah, I hope that people pick onto that and listen to what she says. I mean, she knows what she's talking about. I think
Very smart,
she would have a
yeah.
lot of really interesting perspectives coming up on what's happened with the petrodollar. But this is one of those things. It's yet another thing that's been telegraphed for a very long time. So we all knew this was happening before it happened. So whenever it happened, it wasn't a big shock. It's, oh, okay, well, yeah, the United States has not been doing very well being the steward of the petrodollar. In fact, the United States has done nothing but abuse this privilege and utilize it in order to create this empire that is now. I mean, this empire is now just dead set on spreading homosexuality around the world. That's basically what it's good for at the moment.
That seems to be the way. Normally, they used to spread civilization around the world with empires, didn't they? Like with the Romans, but now they just spread debauched behavior.
Right. It's somebody made the point. I think it might have been Aaron McIntyre just the other day was making the point about the guy who peeling out over the rainbow flag, and they said, well, that's because that's the real flag. That's their flag. It's not the United States flag. You can do anything you want to a United States flag, but you deface the rainbow flag, then that you're really messing with the American empire at that point.
Sorry, you cut out there. Did you say he was like arrested for defacing the rainbow flag?
Uh, there was a rainbow flag painted in an intersection, and this guy just came up with his truck and just started peeling out all over it. And
Oh, right.
and the city
Find him $1,000 for it.
Man, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, yeah. We talk up on the we have our own group, Union of the Unknowns. So we have our own little podcast going. But one of the things we talk about a lot is that we really hate the fact that they've taken our rainbow. You know, so every time you see a rainbow, you think, "Oh man, they're promoting LGBTQ stuff." But it might be, you know, kids used to paint rainbows quite innocently. Kids love it, and one of our podcasters, just Isman Khan, says, you know, that is why they're doing it, because kids like rainbows and they want to sort of co-opt that. It's the way they ruin everything is just, you know, really hats me off.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it's also a symbol of the promise made by God that He won't flood the world again, and so they're taking this and trying to give Him another excuse to flood the world.
Yeah, it does seem to be coming to like at least a, you know, maybe the end of civilization, but at least an end of empire time, doesn't it, really? So that's why I think there's going to be some collapse coming, and maybe something good will come out of it. But it means there'll be some rough
Yeah,
times
yeah,
ahead.
that's the yep, and it's weird because we grew up in luxury, and as things fall apart, it's going back and understanding how to actually do things. It's really good for us, I think.
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, you know, the West seems to be such a corrupt place now, and what they did with the COVID you know, jabs, I shouldn't call them vaccines, is just like the ultimate step and showing how much they hold us in contempt and how much they want to try and kill us, basically, or at least make us really ill. I don't think any civilization that does that to its people has got a great future ahead. So,
the funny thing about all of the things that are going on is that we're not allowed to say anything about the mess that they're putting us through. And in fact, someone's going to jail. A guy is getting thrown in jail for making a meme. He faces up to 10 years. He made a meme that they say could have led to people thinking that they could text their vote. I don't think anybody's that ignorant, and if they are, I probably don't want them voting anyway.
yeah, I mean, just when you think things can't get more ridiculous, they do. Uh, that really is the ultimate in clamping down on free speech, isn't it? If you're going to just say jokes, you know, you made a joke that people could take seriously and they might do something bad. So, you know, we're going to put you in jail. It's just nuts. His joke was something about texting
It's
votes,
power.
then about, you know, he was saying that this was a man, right? He was saying that you could text your vote in, and they called it election interference, right?
Yeah, that was what it was. It was, yeah, that he's interfering with an election because he joked that you could text your vote. I mean, people do this kind of stuff all the time, and this is terrifying because I've spread some memes and I've said some things on my show that that the powers that be don't like. So we really here at this part point in the banana republican of the world. I call it a chocolate chip ice cream republic.
Good, I like that. Yeah, because you don't have many bananas, right? So there you go.
Oh, it's
um,
it's because Joe is always eating the chocolate chip ice cream made by Jenny's, which is $20 a pint.
that's that he came down to talk about the school shooting, right? And he started talking about how he only came down because there was chocolate chip ice cream available. Did
Yep,
you say
he's
I
got
do?
a Nancy Pelosi sized freezer full.
That's right. I do. I shouldn't really, but I did quite enjoy the videos and clips of Biden, making gaff after gaff. His latest thing was he went to that town that was flattened by a tornado, which I think was called Rolling Fork, and he calling it Rolling Stone. And he said, they're here in Rolling Stone, and we're going to rebuild Rolling Stone. And someone in the who was there eventually had to shout out, "Rolling Fork!" It's
Yeah, this
Clown World doesn't quite do it, does it? I mean, it's a world beyond parody. There's nothing that seems to be beyond what they're willing to do. Put up a completely brain dead, senile old duffer as the president, and everyone thinks that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's good old Joe.
well, I think in a lot of ways we get what we deserve, and that kind of plays into the next part where we're going to talk about right now. But yeah, we deserve in so many ways, and it's a shame really because I would like to think we deserve better. I want to deserve better, but we need everybody to deserve better, and that's the part where everybody's not doing so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they say like in revolutions, you don't need actually that many people who are on the side of the revolutionaries. Like in the American Revolution, for example, there's a minority who are actually out there fighting and doing stuff. So you probably need I don't know, 20%, 30%. So we're maybe not that far off, numbers of people who are not really going along with it. There's certainly more and more people not going along with it. Judging by how many people are getting the COVID booster, hardly anyone.
Right. It's a really weird thing, the way that things are designed at this point, that there's so many simultaneous revolutions that in order to be a part of one of them, you also in order to be revolutionary, you have to be reactionary on the opposing revolutions. And
Yeah,
it's a really weird like they just took all of the political science that they built over the last 100 years and scrambled it all up and threw everything at us at once.
yeah. Well, they certainly captured a lot of the institutions, haven't they? And like universities, and that was kind of you could go back to the sort of Marxist Austrian school stuff. That was always going to be their plan. That was the way they thought they could. And also, there's the sort of UN Agenda 2030 thing where they talked about capturing cities at a local level, like capturing mayors and local government to sort of bypass national governments, and they seem to be doing that quite successfully in a lot of places as well.
Like how Klaus penetrates the cabinets,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
he's penetrated cabinets throughout the world. And yeah, you're right. All these institutions, I don't think there's any that haven't been captured. There,
no,
it seems every institution is serving the empire, and yeah, to get out of this, it's gonna be kind of hard. And in some ways I want the BRICS to put a dent in them, but we're in a really weird position because their success is means that a lot of bad things happen here, and other Western places. That means that if the BRICS are successful, then that means Western places are suffering, and a lot of it is brought onto us by the the people that run us. So it's like, okay, they're running us and they're the ones that are causing the food shortages, but then they've got this enemy to blame.
yeah, yeah. It's a difficult one. Yeah, I think we will have to go through a lot of hardship. But the regimes in the West are so corrupt now. I think they've got to go really in one way or another. And it's hard to see us voting our way out of this problem because they've. Well, I think what the US shows is that they've captured the elections as well, so they can get anyone in voted in that they want really.
Well, I think that it's always been that way. It's just they had so they thought that they only had to counteract Trump so much in 2016 apparently, and didn't successfully do it. Either that or he's in on it and part of their plan as well, because you probably couldn't have ever gotten someone to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to print up $6 trillion." No one would have been able to successfully do that but Trump, and that was the that really was the salvo that made everything start to collapse the way that it is.
Yeah, maybe. I can't quite decide on Trump, I must say, whether he's in on it or not, because certainly a lot of the anti-Trump sentiment and the fact that they tried so desperately hard with all this election fraud to not get him re-elected makes me think that he's not completely controlled like some of the other politicians are. But I don't really know. I find him a bit hard to read, really.
Well,
I mean, I think basically he's mostly interested in himself. Sorry, you cut out there again. And did you? What were you saying?
yeah, it seems that yeah, he is only interested in himself, but at the same time, a lot of people believe in him, and a lot of people think that he's pushing the right things. I think that he's useful for one thing, and and the main thing is that he makes all of the people that I can't stand go crazy, and that's pretty good. But with this trial, this arrest, whatever, the 34 counts that are thrown at him, uh, basically somebody was explaining that it's 3 counts multiplied by 11,
Is that right?
and that's yeah, that there's really that it's not really 34 counts. It's just it's just three, and they just copy pasted
Yeah.
over and over again the same ones.
Most people
But
think
I don't
that,
think they're gonna get him.
yeah,
But
I don't. Most people think if there's any
I
sort of
think he's a winner.
fairness in the trial, that it will get thrown in because there's no real standing in the case. Standing's the wrong word, but there's no real basis to the case. It was kind of thrown out at federal level already, wasn't it? And then the indictment of this one says, oh, he was committing a crime to cover up another crime, which is what they're trying to get him. But they don't name what the other crime is, so that's very nebulous. So most legal experts, even on the ones who don't like Trump, seem to think that it's really not much of a case at all.
Well, it's got attention to it, and that's the main thing is so he's getting attention out of it. It helps everybody involved in this scenario. Did you listen to Brad recently talking about this, that
No,
Trump's in a position where his opponents have to defend him? So whenever Trump is in the primaries, his opponents have to defend him in this situation, and if
yeah,
not, it's going to make them look bad. They're in a really weird kind of scenario, and so he's won out of this, and he does that a lot. He wins for losing a lot, and I'm not into thinking that he's some sort of 3D chess master. I think that that's ridiculous. I think that it's it's pretty simple with him, is that he's a very me first kind of guy, and he likes to think that he's somebody was wrestling, and he's uh, he knows how to play himself. He knows how to play himself better than there's no one like him. There's that for sure. He's not, he's one of a
yeah.
kind, and that's a good thing. because I don't think we could share space with two of them around.
No. It's certainly made for interesting times, and I did find him very entertaining. Actually, he's very witty, and his put downs are fantastic. My favourite Trump moment, I think, was when he went to the NATO conference in Europe somewhere, and they have a bit at the start for the press, where they're all sitting around the table, and normally the president will say something like, "It's great to be here. We're talking about really important future for NATO and blah blah blah." But he said, well, what I want to talk about is why we even have NATO anymore. We were supposed to fight the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union's long gone. Why are we still paying all this money to NATO? And all the other NATO functionaries sitting around the table were looking quite horrified at this. So I like the fact that he would just go off on his own thing, not really caring about what he was saying and cause all this chaos. So I mean, what he said was absolutely true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I thought about NATO for a long time. Why have we still got NATO? We were supposed to fight the Soviet Union. We don't have it anymore. Let's get rid of it.
I completely agree with him on that sentiment, and a lot of his anti-war stuff. And if I don't think he's necessarily anti-war. I mean, he definitely supports every single thing that his masters in the place where he goes and kisses the wall want him to do.
Yes.
But he is more anti-war than most of them that we've had, and
Yeah.
I don't think the presidents really decide that.
No, I don't think
And
so.
and I think they proved that under him, because he was talking about getting out of a place, and they lied to him and said that they were getting out of there, and they ended up increasing the amount instead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the president makes many of those sort of decisions. And ever since, at least JFK, when he clearly wasn't told about the Bay of Pigs invasion, he didn't know anything about it. So yeah. I mean, they're mainly figureheads, aren't they, really? Some more than others. I mean, I can't imagine Joe Biden getting involved in any decision making at all, really. Jill, possibly, but not Joe. But Trump, I think, would probably want to sort of try and do some things, and he probably got blocked a lot of the time. I find it hard to forgive him about the vaccine thing, because he tied his colours to the mast on the vaccine thing, didn't he? And said, this is my warp speed vaccine, and he's just not going to back down from that. He's not going to admit he was wrong.
He's not very good at admitting he's wrong. I don't think he's ever done it. And I think when he does, if he ever does, I think it'll be a really big, significant thing if it ever happens, just because of that, as far as character goes. I wonder how he is off camera. I really wonder that. And what kind of guy is he off camera? I mean, nobody's ever seen it. Nobody that I know of, at least.
I heard a podcaster, who was it now? It was some well-known kind of alt-right person, or one of our guys from the alternative media. Can't remember who it was, but he's a New Yorker, and he sort of came across Trump's dealings quite a lot, and he said he was a bit of a sort of like a mobster type, sort of. So he fit, and of course, if you're doing business dealings in New York, like building work, you have to get involved with the mob, because they've got their fingers in all those sort of pies. So, and he said, he kind of fitted right in. So he was a sort of a dodgy wheeler dealer, but not really. I don't think he was into some of this satanic stuff that some of the other politicians are into.
I haven't picked up on any of that. I haven't seen him using the symbology or any of the stuff, and I haven't seen him try to get close to people that are known people that are into that.
No.
Like he's down with the Podestas.
Yeah, exactly. And with a guy who was investigating Epstein, famously said, I can't remember if it was an FBI guy or what, but he famously said that Trump was the only guy who was seemingly prepared to cooperate, whereas all the others was kind of, not really prepared to say very much. So I don't think he was involved in that at all, actually. Monica Perez, who, from the propaganda report, who basically the Union on the Unknowns all got together because of her. She says she kind of is a New Yorker as well, and she knows a bit about him. She says he's too much of a germaphobe to do a lot of these things that people were claiming about him. So I can believe that.
Well, pee is sterile.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but it doesn't seem to fit with his personality. I can't imagine him. Interesting enough, that's with the Stormy Daniels thing. He just received another $120,000. Did you see that from his? Because did he have a libel case against her or something that he won? She had to pay $500,000 to him, and they've just ruled that he's going to get another $120,000. So all this while that New York case is going on, it's sort of interesting timing.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this is that no matter what she loses out of this, she's gained so much out of this.
Yeah.
And she was paid to keep quiet. She obviously didn't keep quiet, but she became rich off of not being quiet about it.
Yeah.
And so no, he's not going to be able to get everything that she got out of it out of her. So she comes out a winner. He comes out a winner because like Brad was saying, that his opponents have to take his side in this. One thing that people need to take note of is that regardless of if this is unfair persecution or whatever, he did cheat on his wife, and that's not something that we need to be taking in stride. It's like, okay, cool. Well, like Clinton did it, of course, but we don't need people like that running things. People that can't even keep the promise.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it would be hard to find someone, that high up in a position of power who hasn't done that at least once, unfortunately, because morally they don't have the same sort of compass as a lot of ordinary people like us do.
Yeah, it's one of those has everything and just does things. I think a lot of it is that he could make as many mistakes as he wants and still be successful, powerful, and rich.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't think he's going back into court until December. Did I hear that right? Which will sort of be
it's something like
his,
that. That's another thing about this is that I've talked about this. This is the third week now that I'm talking about it. I won't talk about this next week. Even if stuff happens, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just ignoring it. But like it's one of those things that gets to dominate the headlines for as much time, and no one's changed. No one's grown from this. No, the same people that have TDS and that think that he's the devil incarnate are still freaking out about him and still think that, oh, we finally got him, and the other nonsense going through their heads. And then all the people that defend him think that he couldn't do anything wrong, and that some of them have even compared him to Jesus, which is blasphemous, and that's not anything that I think is something that needs to be tolerated. Now, he's just that kind of polarizing character, and hey, if the agenda is division, well, there you go, we got it. Got the best guy for it.
I think that what you said earlier could well be the reason why he was pushed forward or allowed to be pushed forward, because he was so divisive, and it gets people to take their eye off the ball, doesn't it? They're more worried about Trump than about all the other things that go on. One of my UK friends sent me a meme about, it was like a prison tower with Trump Tower written on it. So he's one of these TDS people who just thinks, yeah, he's going to go to jail. It's great. We've got him at last. So there's no talking to a lot of my former friends, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as long as everyone understands that these people are all playing roles. Before the show started, before we started recording, we were talking about what went wrong with Boris because he seemed good to begin with, and you decided that somebody likely got to him, and you know, and with as many deals as Trump has, maybe do you think he could buy his way out of getting got to? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, there's a thought abroad that he may not be as rich as he makes out, isn't he? That's the Monica Prayers again says quite a lot, but she doesn't really think he's got that much money.
Right, his character is to play that he has all this money,
Yeah.
and yeah, he maybe doesn't have that much money, but he's got a lot more than we do. So,
And bluffing like that gets you a long way, doesn't it? That's like the plot of the £1 million banknote, where they've got this thing that's supposedly worth $1 million. They can't spend it anywhere because everyone's saying, "Oh, come in, have all this free stuff," And so maybe that's what he does all the time.
yeah, he just brings in a boatload of McDonald's cheeseburgers and Diet Coke for his
Yes,
friends.
yes, I
Like,
saw that.
look, enjoy all this food that I brought you. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if he's anything like some of the bosses I've had, they never carry around cash, so you'll be just going to an underling and going, "Oh, could you pay for these, Fred or whatever."
Yeah. Just send me the receipts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have one of those kind of jobs where I send in receipts at the end of the week. So, because I'm not a regular trucker. I go truck to truck and bring trucks back to terminals.
Okay,
So, so yeah, I send my flight receipts and etc. All the other fun stuff.
nice. So are you self-employed or
No, no.
right? Okay,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's something to build to in this industry, but I don't see the industry living the same way. So, yeah, I could go and invest and find myself my own truck, and then the industry completely changes because it's hard for these guys that run the corporations. They don't know what these guys are going to try to push at them later,
yeah,
because they're probably going to try to push some stupid battery thing at them at some point, and it's not going to work. And a lot of us are going to suffer for that if they do that too.
yeah.
But
I wanted to ask you actually, when we were watching the truckers' protests in Canada, do you think truckers are more kind of independently thinking minded? They're more likely to sort of see things in the way that we might see things.
yes and no. There's a lot of them that are completely blue pilled. They're wearing their mask to walk between their truck and the truck stop. Still to this day, I give them a look every single
Yeah.
time, and say things that I'm not allowed to say under my breath whenever I see those people around.
So do I.
But they're they're not, you know, they're not that many. And yeah, I think a lot of truckers listen to podcasts too. And so, and that's how your show started. That's how my show started. Is we're people that appreciate a lot of shows, and it's not that we think we could do better. It's that we love the craft so much. It's like, okay, cool. I want to get in on this and do something myself too. I can name you, like, off the top of my head, hundreds of shows that I think are way better than mine, but I'm just glad to be part of it and doing something cool.
Yeah, I think our motivation was partly that, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world and we want to sort of tell people about them. So certainly when COVID, that really lit a fire in me when COVID started, because I just thought this is just such non-scientific crap, and it's clearly a plan just to control us all. So my wife's also a scientist, so we were sort of uniquely placed with our skills to sort of analyze the crap out of what was happening, and we could see that there was nothing really much unusual going on.
Yeah, I saw this clip. You probably saw it. It's old, but it recently surfaced. It was Fauci going around into the ghetto and talking to people and telling them to get their shots. And then whenever he was talking about the flu, the guy said, it'll be just like the flu. And Fauci was like, oh, the flu was really low last year. It's like,
yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yes, I quite enjoyed that. The guy sort of took him to task, really, didn't he? He said, it's all about fear, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, he did well without making it escalate. He didn't escalate it or anything. He just said what needed to be said. I think he did a good job. And he didn't act like he knew more than Fauci did, or even the lady that was standing next to Fauci and one of his, his just people that were there to promote him, and thinks that everything that he said is solid just because he wears glasses.
Yes. Yeah. They don't really want to debate, do they? I mean, that's what you'll find with these people. They won't debate with someone from the other side, on scientific issues, because they can't really. They've got nothing to stand on. So they just use sort of tropes and sayings, safe and effective, we're all in this together, 3 weeks to flatten the curve or whatever it was. But
Yeah.
one good thing I will take from it is I like to quote David Icke, who I agree with everything he says, but he comes up with some good stuff. And he said at the start of this, he said, the one good thing about this is that, these people normally operate in the dark, the people that run the world. And now they've walked out in the light, and you can see exactly, if you care to look, you can see exactly what they're up to.
Yeah. I love David. And yeah, I'm not 100%, but man, I love how concise he can be about certain things. I mean, he was good at it before he really started, but he's definitely he's way up there as far as guys in this movement.
Yeah, he was very early to the game, wasn't he? Like a bit like Alex Jones was on your side of the pond. So,
Oh yeah, I think they were kind of simultaneous, or at least that I was getting into both of them early in the 2000s because of 9/11, and there was a time where I got overwhelmed with all of this stuff and just decided that I'm not going to pay attention, and then they hit us with this. So,
oh right, that's interesting. Was 9/11 your sort of your wake up call? Was it?
yeah. It was a couple of years after 9/11. I wasn't immediate. I was there. Well, I was on the front lines of the media on that day. I worked at a radio station.
Oh wow.
And I was suspicious about Building 7, for instance. I asked one of the anchors why it fell, and told him that it didn't make sense. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense today. So it never really sat well with me. And then the war coming along shortly after that, the entire propaganda machine working for that, that really bothered me, because I was big against the war, especially knowing that none of that stuff added up. They did some crazy equation that said that we had to attack Iraq and Afghanistan, and all the terrorists supposedly were Saudi Arabian, and they even said
mostly from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I think like you, I was a bit late to the game on 9/11, but my story was a bit similar to James Corbett, actually. He says he used to see all these videos popping up on YouTube, and you sort of like loose change. And eventually you get curious about it, you watch it, and you think, wow, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of there. I didn't know about Building 7 at all initially. But I think, as you were implying, it's it's quite disturbing. When I came to realise, there was an inside job, I found it really, really disturbing, and I probably didn't sleep for like weeks after. This is why I always think it's crazy when there are people who like to dismiss us as conspiracy theorists because they say, oh, it's satisfying to come up with that sort of explanation for what's going on in the world. I didn't find it satisfying at all. I found it, horrific to think that there was all these elites trying to kill us all.
Yeah, waking up to that, I think that always knowing that, the time that I decided to purposefully ignore the news and stay out of it and kind of and just decide, oh well, yeah, it's all bad. And that's how I looked at it. Oh yeah, well yeah, of course they're gonna do that. They're bad guys.
Yeah.
But knowing that, having that as the foundation is that yeah, they will definitely take out many of their own people in order to accomplish something. And that's
Definitely.
why whenever the virus came around, I was not surprised at all about that. It just, oh, of course they're going to run the death toll and they're going to promote these ideas of the reefer trucks being in front of hospitals because they're overwhelmed. And, and I having to explain that to so many people that what was going on with that and how they were creating their own problems. All the problems that they were causing with this stuff was the reason why something wasn't happening. It was like, oh well, the coroners can't take in as many bodies at a moment because they all have to apply to these COVID guidelines, and all the
Yeah.
guidelines basically set up everything. So this was well planned. This was super
Very
well
well
planned
planned.
by
Yeah.
the powers that be.
Yeah, you got to take your hat off to them to a certain extent. It was because they fooled most people. But listen, we've got a few minutes left on the recording time. I don't know if we should maybe wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Tell everybody about Union of the Unknowns.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we're a group of Propaganda Report fans who got together and made our own podcast, Union of the Unknowns. So I think the best place you can find us is the Linktree link at unionoftheunknowns.com. And then that'll take you to nice places like our Rockfin channel, our Twitter, and our email, and lots of other good stuff.
Yeah, so this sort of started out of the other show, Union of the Unwanted, which is Charlie and Sam and Monica.
Yeah,
And
the idea was the name was a sort of tribute to that, and we use the same sort of format where we have a group of people, sort of different cast every week depending on availability, where we just talk about. We have a news show once a week, and we have a sort of topic show once a week as well.
yeah, I just heard y'all talking to Legal Man, and he's one of my favorites. So that was really great.
He's very knowledgeable, but I did find him a bit depressing now. So, but a lot of people say he's
That's
just
bad, but
realistic.
he makes me laugh the whole time.
He's
So
quite funny.
yeah.
I liked it when Monica was on his show and she said, what should I do about my kids? And he said, oh, don't worry, they're probably not going to make it. So don't worry.
Whoa. Yeah, he's. I'm really looking forward to his movie as well.
Do you want to give us your stuff, Ambo, before we sign off?
Oh yeah, I do two shows: Burn Babylon Burn, which you're listening to, and the Doom Kitchen. Doom Kitchen's interviews and subjects and whatnot. And Burn Babylon Burn is the news headlines. You can find it libertylinks.io/the Doom Kitchen.
And it's very entertaining indeed, very good. So I think we've got less than a minute now, so perhaps better say goodbye. It's been really good talking to you. So I'm glad we managed to catch up in the end with all our technical issues.
Yeah, getting from the desert of California to the Canary Islands has been intense.
Yeah. All right then. Well, take care out there on the road, and we'll catch up again soon, hopefully.